Good morning. It is 8:29 a.m. on Sunday, January 6th, 2019. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. Because it is Sunday, I am continuing my rewatch of Gravity Falls with Season 1, Episode 9, The Time Traveler's Pig. This is also a fun episode. I am a sucker for time travel stories regardless. I love them. I love them. And it's interesting, actually, the title of the episode, just because the story is not necessarily very similar to The Time Traveler's Wife, which is, of course, the reference. But the nonetheless, having it all be tied around Mabel's, the emotional core of the episode is the pairing of Dipper's longing for a way to impress Wendy and Mabel's longing for Waddles, which is obviously the more pure and wholesome and deserving of the two, as the episode makes clear. Um, but Waddles has been in the opening credits all along, and so it's actually this is another one of those times where in the rewatch, it's interesting to have the entry of a story element that you think of as kind of having always been there, and then realize that, oh no, we're well into the first season before Waddles actually shows up. But Waddles is a super cute pig, of course. And, Waddles is obviously a better name than Old 15-Poundy, which is a fun gag, actually. I like that. I like that on a couple of different levels. Obviously, it's just very silly on one level. The idea that it would be a guess the pig's weight game, and then you name the pig 15-Poundy and then be mystified on how they guess. I like that, but what it also does very nicely is that it gives us an excuse for later when we need Mabel to be able to win the pig very quickly. And also a way for it to make sense that Pacifica wins the pig herself later, and that like she's also able to get the pig later. And the thing that they never really explain is what Pacifica wants with the pig. Unclear, but it's also true and obvious that we can imagine that, Waddles does not belong with Pacifica. No, he belongs with Mabel. Believe Waddles is a boy pig. But in any event, this episode also pays off something that's been happening in the background a little bit. There have been a couple of the episodes in the season so far where, if you're paying very close attention, you would see a mysterious, bald, bespectacled figure in the background picking up stuff. And what we learn now is that that was, in fact, Blendon Blandon retrieving the various things that Wendy and, Dipper and Mabel dropped in their competition. But, this episode obviously also, furthers this ongoing plot of Dipper kind of longing for Wendy, wanting to impress her, and the whole dynamic with him and Robbie, which is, continues for a while for sure. And so the plot of this episode, if you didn't just recently rewatch it, of course, is that we're having a big fair at Mystery Shack. Grunkle Stan has spared every expense, which is also a fun play on Spared No Expense from Jurassic Park. But of course, having all of the carnival games be super rigged, including a dunk tank that's literally been welded so that it won't go. All of that stuff feels very on brand for Grunkle Stan. So I like all of that stuff. And then it also just being in this excuse to have the fair setting. Although it's not clear why, um, all of the Mystery Shack employees except Seuss are seemingly free to just wander around and have a good time at the fair and are not having to work at the fair. But I suppose maybe that's part of the fair rental that Stan did, was having the carnies there to to run the games, I suppose, maybe. But so Dipper has managed to convince Wendy to come with him to the fair, and did so. I like that we're following up on this idea that he's learning that he does actually make progress when he is just straightforward and honest. But of course, in this context, progress is defined really just by he says, "Do you want to go to the fair with me?" And she says, "Yeah, okay. I guess so." "Yeah, I guess so," is I think what she says, in kind of a, sure, sort of mode. So it continues to be not necessarily a date, which is, of course, why Dipper's kind of building up in his head to wanting to ask about it being an actual official date, which, of course, is what, Robbie beats him to it. And so we have the whole fair thing where Dipper, despite the joke being that he's super weak, he manages to throw a baseball hard enough that on the recoil bounce it gives Wendy a black eye. And that's all unfortunate. And then Dipper runs into Blendin Blandin on the way back from getting ice, which delays him. He believes that that's what causes Robbie to have enough time to swoop in, and press a snow cone against her eye, which is weird. But and then he asks her out officially, and so that's Dipper is heartbroken. He blames the time traveler, but then later when he discovers, oh, actually this guy is a time traveler, what we're going to do is use it. You have a time machine? Can I borrow it? He wants to go back and try to fix his mistake and actually, succeed with Wendy and succeed in this context. Like, even when he achieves what he's setting out to do, really all it was is keeping Robbie from swooping in so that he can continue to have a good time. Dipper can continue to have a good time with Wendy at the fair. And they do go through the tunnel of love and corn dogs. And so it's like, it's motion in that direction, although still not entirely clear that she sees him in any kind of a romantic sense. But certainly it keeps Robbie out of the picture. But, parallel to all of that is Wendy meeting Waddles, winning Waddles, and then just instant soulmates. They recreate the Lady and the Tramp spaghetti thing with a piece of pizza, which is weird but fun. And they're so cute together. And it's obviously, on the one hand, I think that we are primed to be in the same boat as Dipper, in the sense that Mabel seems to be blowing it all out of proportion, which we could understand. She has a tendency to do that sort of thing. But then, she, and we also, this is all framed in the idea of Dipper is making progress with Wendy because he's following Mabel's advice. And then eventually, when he starts trying to use the time machine and discovers that time is stubbornly refusing to be changed, and it requires additional intervention and assistance from Mabel to do it, so he doesn't get the things that he wants without Mabel's help. But then this realization that by helping him, Mabel has had to sacrifice winning Waddles, and it's more than just not having Waddles. It's Waddles is with Pacifica. This is the first episode, actually, where it seems like Mabel actually has any actual animosity towards Pacifica, but in this context, it's really almost still just about can't let Waddles be with her, she'll mistreat him. So the idea then that when she realizes what has happened, she goes to Dipper and says, no, we have to go back and fix it because that's not okay. But he doesn't want to risk the way his afternoon turned out. And so this is where they have the fun, time travel battle where they're running around back through in the background of old episodes, and then they go back to Oregon Trail times, which is fun. And I love Mabel's attitude during that Oregon Trail thing of like, oh, so you get to play around with the time machine to do whatever you want, but you think I can't? And so she starts like going up and finding this old pioneer lady. Is like, guess what? Guess who's going to get the right to vote? That's right. High five, teach that to your friends. All that's fun. And so Dipper it takes him a while to realize that he's being selfish, that he only got this thing that he was trying to get, this, keeping Robbie away and getting to spend more time with Wendy. He only got that because Mabel was helping him and that she's always been trying to help him. And now he realizes that she is just as heartbroken, if not more, than he was when, when Robbie swooped in and took Wendy away. And so we have that bit where he keeps jumping forward in time to see when she's gotten over it, and she hasn't been. And it's obviously a little bit it's taken to the extreme, I think, a little bit when it's suggested that in a month she's still standing there beating her head against the totem pole, vines growing up around her, a snail on her shoulder, and that she has now become a tourist attraction known as Miserable Mabel. That's a little silly, but at the same time, Dipper is able to really process how upset she is and realize that he was being selfish, and then for Mabel is willing to go and recreate the original afternoon where he accidentally gives Wendy a black eye, although it's a little bit weird to still call it an accident when he sort of knows what's going to happen and is trying to make that happen. But obviously, I don't think we hold it against him there. It's so he recreates that. The time travel logic is a little wobbly, just in the sense of like, how does Mabel know about that last one because he goes back without her? But I don't think any of us really care about about that piece of it, because it's much more satisfying for her to realize what he did and be thankful, and for even though obviously he was being selfish for a while, he came around and he did the right thing, and now we've got a Waddles in the show, and it's fantastic. We also get some nice business with the time baby that was referred to obliquely in one of the secret documents from the last time. The two time cops are named Lolf and Dungren, which is a play on Dolph Lundgren, the actor who played Universal Soldier, because these guys obviously look like that. They used the laser arm cannon, which Seuss had predicted was the only thing that would be able to make Stan fall in the dunk tank. All of that paid off. Pretty great, solid episode, I think. I like the time travel shenanigans. I didn't even mention they went back and briefly saw dinosaurs. That was kind of a blink and you'll miss it thing anyway. But, so ultimately we, step up, we turn up the heat on the rivalry with Robbie on Dipper's, side of that plot. But we got Waddles. So I think we'll leave it there for this time. Next week, we'll be talking about the episode Fight Fighters, which is another great episode. And in the meantime, I'll talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes. And if you are watching this on Saturday evening of January 5th um, I guess even if you're not, in a little bit later this morning for me, we'll be streaming the new session of the RPG game that's going to be set in the Space Casey setting. This first session is going to be a lot of character setup still, without necessarily getting into the adventure a lot yet, but so either you can watch live or with the live, I think we're targeting to start at around 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. But otherwise, obviously, it'll post to YouTube and elsewhere later. So, in the meantime, talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.